Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, and a big thank you to the 10,000 new listeners that have joined us here in August. I'm not sure where that spike came from, but I equate that kind of figure to Madison Square Garden. So please grab yourself a drink, make yourself comfortable, because I've got a great guest lined up for you all today. Because disruption feels like an often overused term, doesn't it? Because I think we all talk about tech disruption, creative disruption, and so many other different areas of it, and constantly focused on who's going to come and turn whatever industry it is on its head. But when looking back at any type of disruption, we need to keep in mind that it's an aid of giving a customer a new, different experience that pleases them and keeps them coming back for more. That's exactly what Amazon did with its Prime and its one-click checkouts, and what Uber did with taxis. And for those reasons alone, modern businesses need to embrace experience disruption, which ensures that everything is done in aid of giving the customer a positive experience. So when I was looking for someone to tackle this subject, because let's face it, it is a pretty big one, my search led me to Inken Kuhlmann-Rhinow, who's the Marketing Director at Hubspot. And she's going to talk about all this and much more with me today. So please buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Germany so we can speak with Inken now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure, yeah. My name is Inken, and I run marketing for a SaaS software company who kind of overlooks the entire customer experience from marketing, sales, and service as a platform. And I've been kind of doing this for 7 years now for Hubspot, and kind of seen us grow from, startup to scale up to now, I'd say like pretty decent enterprise. And it's been a nice journey so far.
It really has. You've had a great journey there, and you've been there at every stage of that journey. And I think it's been incredibly difficult this year for businesses of all sizes. So I've got to ask, what kind of challenges have you faced at HubSpot, and how do you adapt to this current climate?
Yeah, I think like as any company, going into this, we also weren't really sure what to expect. Will it all break? Will we bend? How will the situation change? And since we're so global now as well, it's like every market is different, and every situation, every country was so different. So we kind of sat down very early on in February, March, and kind of decided, okay, what do we want to shift from this year? We had plenty of plans for this year, as anybody probably, going into a new year, and always like super excited to get started with marketing plans and all that kind of stuff. But we paused for a moment. We were like, okay, this is not the right thing to do. So we kind of changed gear. We were like, okay, now we need to really just help our customers and partners to kind of really weather that storm. So we kind of did 3, I think, major changes I can quickly cover. So one was really kind of reviewing the offering we have. We, for instance, added way more free tools to our software. We heavily reduced prices. We paid commissions for partners in advance. And I think HubSpot is known for creating a lot of content. And usually our content is, like very demand focused and very acquisition heavy. And we were like, okay, nowadays people need help. How to run a webinar, how to suddenly set up like anything online, like how to sell online, how to move your whole business online. So we launched completely different campaign that we called Adapt, and it's actually still running, and adopted all of our content. We launched a podcast in Germany, the digital help desk, to really just help our audience through this crisis. And we also looked at data from our customers and how they were reacting to this. And is there anything we see in the trends that can help other companies kind of weather through this?
And it's great that you mentioned there, it wasn't too long ago that we had these big plans for a new year, but not only a new year, a new decade. And suddenly all that hope was just sucked out of everything. And one phrase I'm hearing more and more is experience disruption. So on that subject, can you tell me a little bit more about why modern businesses need to embrace experience disruption? Because there's a lot of opportunities to be had out there too, isn't there?
Yeah, I think like also this has been kind of like expedited by this change a little bit. Everybody moved to like online buying, shopping, whatever, and everything has pretty much like moved over to that world completely. And I think buyers are getting more picky, and in terms of like what they will accept as a customer experience that is fabulous, that is good, and which is bad. And I think that's where we need to shift gear as well as companies to think about like, how can I make it as easy as possible for customers to do business with me? 10 years ago, maybe, you won by selling the best product, but today it's not really, it is what you sell, of course, but it's much more about like how you sell to your customers. And I think a lot of companies are kind of struggling with this. They're always kind of like in this, like, how do I choose between growing fast or growing well? And I think we've come to the point where it's not an or question, it's like an and. You're trying to please your investors, but you also need to please your customers. And you will only really be successful if you do both.
Absolutely. And something I also read that you said recently was that Spotify might have used creative disruption to actually make their mark. I mean, it's fascinating what I read there, but if anyone listening that hasn't seen that, can you just expand on that?
Yeah, I think here's like what Spotify did extremely well on that market, which honestly, they came with this product, like we already had like iTunes and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't really a new product, right, going into the market. But what they did differently is like, first of all, they went in with a freemium go-to-market, which I think was really good. So everybody would have the opportunity to just try it out, go for it. Gives me a taste as a consumer. And they kind of appeal to this shared human experience. So, super easy to share playlists with each other. They brought in like, my favorite musicians to also curate lists. And I think they started to think about like what the user wanted in certain situations. And I think they didn't put users in a box. I think in a lot of different ways, music was consumed more in like, you're put in a genre, right? You're like, oh, you like rock music, that's your thing. But I think what Spotify realized early on is like, no, you change your mood, you change your, you're working out, you want different music, and, you have kind of chill music on the weekend when it's raining, what do you want to listen for? And I think they got this really, really well and adapted and kind of personalized that experience for everybody.
And if we look back, I mean, Steve Jobs once said that it's really hard to design products by focus groups. And it's something that we're doing a lot of now, because a lot of times people just don't know what they want. They're just going to expect more of the same, but faster, bigger, and better. So they don't actually know what they want until you show it to them. So what do you think the secret is to giving the customers the experiences that they didn't even know that they wanted?
Yeah, I think like, moving away almost from like what we preached for a very long time is like, think about personas and, like which persona you want to reach. Like think more about like the person you want to reach and like really the human. I think there are a few kind of simple questions I would ask myself if I were to really kind of try to adopt this for my business or even grade myself, because I think it's a great way to start, is like, are you focusing on product marketing fit or product experience marketing fit? So I think that is fundamentally a different answer to how you kind of go about that. And then are you removing friction from your customers in the process of doing business with you? Perfect example, online banks, N24, Monzo, Comdirect, anybody who's kind of like moved to an online bank probably did this because the experience was much better. You didn't have to kind of go into a bank, fill out loads of forms. It was easier. It was like frictionless. And also kind of, how can I then personalize that experience using that bank example? you can easily do that now, right? Somebody's signing up for a personal account or somebody's signing up for a business account. And I think you can offer different content along the way. You can offer different services. You can even, see if somebody is into stock investment, and you can offer help there. And I think that has become more important than ever to really know or assume as well. Obviously, those are assumptions and tests we have to run in marketing as well. What is needed? And one major thing I think a lot of companies forget about is we invest so much time into what happens before somebody becomes a customer. Most of the investment marketing spend all goes into that. But then once they are a customer, it kind of drops and we're like happy with that. So I think, really go into what support do we offer? Terms and conditions, like, is it easy to get out of the contract? Have we communicate this like very, very clearly? And like, I think as well, people no longer want to just have this one fits all solution. It's more like, I want to pay for what I use. So are you offering different payment options as well? And I think that's worth investing time into.
Absolutely. And I love what you said there about removing friction for customers, because one of the things that I've certainly noticed in this post-pandemic world is many leading brands that we all know and love have suddenly become very, very hard to communicate during the lockdown period. And very often they're caught hiding behind do not reply email addresses, confusing phone menus where you're stuck on hold for hours at a time, and of course chatbots, which are some of those chatbots are difficult to get any sense out of. And I'm speaking to many people who just refuse to use those companies ever again. So do you have any advice on how businesses can make interactions with their brand actually frictionless?
Yeah, I think it's a hot topic right now. Everybody is so into chatbots and they're great. Like there's definitely a use case for them. I think nevertheless, if you really want to remove that friction, you need to, first of all, really invest into it. There's no way of really going about it and like removing the human completely. I think, when we have a problem, when we want to discuss something, the bot can help to some degree, but like it also creates more friction if, you're trying to really make me fit into a box I don't want to fit in. And, the bot keeps asking questions and I'm like, no, I just want to talk to somebody. We get very frustrated. Yeah. So I think, really kind of meet your customers at like that level that they want to support and know when to go from technology to human help. And, nobody, and I think this speaks to everybody, is like, nobody wants to wait in a phone line. And I think, really think about like, how can you remove friction out of that, especially nowadays.
And like you said there, you don't want to be put in a box where you don't feel that you belong. And so do you have any tips on how brands can personalize that relationship and make you feel like you are talking to somebody that knows who you are?
Yeah, I think like we have so much great technology at hand, right? There's so many great services, products in terms of software solution nowadays that you can benefit from, where you can really kind of see like, what customer am I dealing with? What's their background? What have they purchased? Had they a recent support ticket open, or like have we helped them with something? So really using that data, I think, can help make that conversation much easier. Even I still kind of, feel this sometimes when I reach out to a company that I've been doing business with and like they don't know anything about me. I'm like, I just gave you my account number. I gave you everything. You should have like a contacts record in front of you and know exactly where I stand. And it's still not the case. So I think we have a long way to go there.
And something else I think we should highlight on today's episode is the power of a brand's or business's community, because more and more the importance of brand advocates are showing their value right now, because they don't just leave positive reviews about your product, they actually defend your brand online and can also help sell your products to other customers too. So do you have any insights that you can share around that?
Yeah, I think like brand ambassadors, there is an interesting topic, right? Because everybody, or like every brand so far, is trying to benefit from that. And what I don't like is when, we don't meet the customer at eye level and customers feel used. And we're just exploiting them to the fact that like, oh, give me your referrals, bring your friends to our business. And I think that's something rarely works. It should be more organic. And I think, focus more on programs that you leverage content from your consumers, from your customers, leverage it on social, ask them to interact with your brand, ask them, what can you offer in return to some degree. And I think customers only will kind of go that far if they are like extremely satisfied. So, metrics like an NPS, like a net promoter score, are super important to track in nowadays kind of experience disruptor mode. And to know, okay, when we've reached that level of customer satisfaction, that we can tap into that.
So you did start this interview today talking about how you started the year with lots of plans for the future and what you were going to be working on and things that you wanted to achieve. But of course, everything changed. So I've got to ask, is there anything that you're doing differently at HubSpot now as a result of the ongoings this year? And also, what makes you hopeful about the future?
Yeah, I think obviously we changed plans completely to some degree. I think my team, for instance, was working really hard on a product launch and to promote that. And we decided we're not going to heavily push a product launch. Nobody is really caring about that right now. So I think again, this year has kind of forced us to look more and more so onto, how to solve for the customer and what can we do to help. And we made some decisions out of that where we're like, okay, we're not doing this. We're not running this campaign. We're not being promotional on social media for a long time, and just offering advice and help. And that has been kind of the right way for us, I think. We felt really comfortable with that. We feel hopeful that if we can kind of, support, first of all, our community, our customers throughout this period, they will hopefully survive with us, or even grow, after the crisis with us. And that was kind of our mantra for this year. And I think it's going to continue on that journey. And obviously, as we think about how the world is changing, how, people are now all working from home and we're all in this remote setup, we made some changes there as well to our kind of, remote policies and how we're thinking about hiring next year. I think the topic diversity became more important than ever this year, with some heated discussions, obviously. So I think that we're set up for a big change. I think history, doesn't really move very fast or quickly. It's just it moves along and then it suddenly takes a jump. And I think we're at this jumping point right now where we've seen there's a lot to change to come. And I think we need to just be agile and to adapt to that.
Absolutely. And I've loved chatting with you today. I think we've covered a lot of ground in a short amount of time. So for anyone listening that would like to find out more about the work you're doing at HubSpot and also contact your team if they do have any questions and carry on the conversation we started today, what's the best way of doing that?
LinkedIn is my preference. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so I think you can always reach me there.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, so many takeaways that I'm going to be walking away with today, such as the importance of making interactions with brands frictionless and personalizing the relationship and so much more. But more than anything, just a big thank you for taking the time to come and speak with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Companies like Spotify may have used creative disruption to make their mark, and Spotify's platform activity-based marketing has kicked off a new trend in the industry. But my big lesson from speaking with Inken today is ultimately everything is in aid of experience disruption. And I think there's a big warning here that putting out big creative ideas that impress other marketers but don't play into the customer experience actually bring little benefit to businesses. So a big thank you to Inken for discussing this and also highlighting why marketers should be working closely with other areas of the business, including sales, services and ops, to deliver experience disruption, all by focusing on giving customers experiences that they didn't know that they wanted, making interactions with brands frictionless, and by that I mean no more hiding behind do not reply email addresses. We all know who you are. And personalising those relationships and making somebody feel special, not just put in a box that they don't belong to. But I'd love to hear your experiences, insights, expertise, questions, whatever it is. Please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, just @Neil C. Hughes. And if you go to my website, techblogwriter.co.uk, you'll find over 1,300 other interviews and also details how you can work with me if you need help launching your own podcast or help with your thought leadership tech blogs or anything else. But enough from me. My job is to return here tomorrow, same time, and serve you, my loyal audience. So a big thank you for tuning in every single day. I realise it's a big ask, and this show is all about you. So keep your insights coming in as well. Maybe we can learn from each other. But before I start getting all sentimental, I'm going to sign off now. So thanks for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.